Hi everybody and Merry Christmas. Are you ready for story time? Okay, so today I want to kind of understand how the mind of Ghislaine Maxwell works because she's a very intriguing person. You have to figure the reason why she's the way she is we all are born innocent. We're all born ignorant of the world. So in order for us to develop our character during the time of our life, we have to be influenced by certain different factors in our environment. So in order to understand the type of person that Ghislaine Maxwell is, how she became a literal monster, with the abuse of these minor girls, you kind of have to dig a little bit into her history to find out why she is the way she is. I mean, we all kind of have like a general idea of how people develop because of the relationships we have with other people that are not in our immediate family. We understand that when the parents are the way they are, and it depends on how they discipline and raise their kids, this is how people develop the characteristics that they end up with. And for me, it's intriguing because Ghislaine was the child of, she's one of 9 kids in this family. A week after she was born, Ghislaine Maxwell was born, the oldest brother Michael was in a really very serious car accident. He had really serious injuries that left him in a coma for 7 years until he died. And I think there was another sibling that died. I don't know the story of that. All I know is the oldest one. But because he was sort of like the leader of the tribe of the children, he was also one of the apples of Robert and Betty's eyes. So when he died, Ghislaine was almost invisible in the family until she was 4 and she stomped into her mother's room and she said, "I exist." So I guess from then on, they started to overcompensate for the missed love that they gave her. So she became her father's favorite. In the meantime, Robert Maxwell, let's talk about him for a minute. He was born Czechoslovakian, and he was in a very strict and orthodox Jewish culture. And he was one of 9 children as well, and they were so poor that they had to share shoes. And then eventually he went into the military and he fought battles for Europe, and he came under the tutelage of this very well-educated British military person that he started to learn the way he spoke in English because of his very educated persona. Robert wanted to be just like him, so he practiced and spoke the same way as this guy did, and that's how people just treated him with so much respect, because it was the accent that made him sound really posh during his life. So then he started to build his empire up, and he was one of a media tycoon by the 70s and the 80s, and he became this person, very visual, public persona in the British, hanging out with the British royalty and people who have the money, and they had parties. They had a 50-room mansion in Oxford, and little Ghislaine was just like playing around and just hobnobbing with all these the British socialites, and the royal family was part of this group. So after a while, Robert started to become very, very wealthy because he owned publishing companies, and he owned the Mirror, and he owned a lot of media outlet, and he even owned a football team. I guess football over there is like soccer, right? So he owned a football team, and then he procured Ghislaine to be the manager of this football team. And so eventually Ghislaine started to become more and more attached to the business of Robert Maxwell. So she became like the son, the son that inherited or was going to take over the business, because she was the only one that was really, I guess because she was very spoiled, the favorite of among the kids, she was able to maybe vocalize or verbalize more to her dad, even though her dad has this stature, the stature that's tyrannical and very strong and very abrasive and just doesn't care what people think. And because he had money, and he was a very mean, and he yelled and ranted at the kids. One minute he'll be just a normal dad, and the next minute he's yelling and beating them up. And even Ghislaine, in one of her interviews, said that there was more sticks than they are praises, but it's very inspirational. I guess she's kind of in between, like this level of, I'm the favorite and I should be the one to like uplift my dad. But then again, there's this stigma where she's part of the 9 kids that are being beat up and being berated. And this was from the autobiography of their mother, Betty. Sorry, are you distracted? Let me take it off. I'm kind of distracted on the camera, but it's pretty cute. So they had their empire, and he was like the most public figure during the 70s and 80s in Europe and everywhere. And so he wasn't satisfied with that, so he wanted to also take over this failing newspaper in New York. And he bought the newspaper, and then Ghislaine wanted a position, like a fashion editor or something like that, but the main editor didn't like her. So when she asked her dad, I guess her dad said no. But so imagine this, your dad, who is your dad, who probably doesn't show a lot of affection, because if he did, he wouldn't be mistreating his kids the way he did. I could just see that, because there are parents out there that are so old school that they don't want to show emotions, and that maybe that sometimes when you grew up really, really poor, like dirt poor, and you just wanted to just bust out of that poverty and you make something of yourself. And so now you worked your way into the wealth, and then you're revered by everyone. It's like going from dirt poor and invisible to all of a sudden everybody is like wanting to kiss your ass, and just to get something out of you. However, because he didn't have the wherewithal to feel for other people. He just didn't care about people. If you're mistreating your own children the way he did, he was probably beaten and abused himself. Nobody knows. Does anybody really know his story? Maybe I haven't read anything yet, but I know that Elizabeth, the wife, has an autobiography out there that I do want to get my hands on when it goes on sale, because I don't really like reading a book. I like reading digitally. I don't know why. So I'm going to read that book, because she will probably be able to reveal a lot more than anybody else that is around. You're going to see an inside look on how the mechanics of the family really was. I'm feeling like Ghislaine is probably more like her dad than her mom, because of what's happening now in her life. I guess when people are around Robert, it's just a tense situation. Like you can cut the tension of the room with a knife. This is Ian Maxwell's words, one of the sons, who is now trying to help Ghislaine get a better treatment in prison. Robert Maxwell, when he was younger, before he was 23, he changed his name 3 times already, because he's trying to find the right persona that he really wanted to apply into his life. So he changed his name to Robert Maxwell. That's the one that kind of stuck a lot more, because he said that it sounded Scottish, like mildly Scottish. You grow up poor, you struggle your whole life, then you become an adult, and then all of a sudden, the Holocaust happened and most of your family have been murdered during that time. So this is probably why he wanted to change his name to a more European sounding name instead of a Jewish name. Now, you got to think about, Ghislaine never had any kids, so I don't know if she was treating these girls like, man, she's so screwed up. This is what I think, okay? It's just my 2 cents. It's for analytical purposes only. I'm not saying this is what happened, but it kind of fits the bill. When the shoe fits, you're able to call a little bit and take some liberties. Again, I don't know what happened in her life, but I'm thinking the reason why physically they were being physically abused is because Robert was probably being physically abused by his parents when he was growing up. So Ghislaine never had any children, so maybe she was treating these girls like her own kids, because some of the girls were describing her as mother-like, like she was a mother or a bigger sister. And you have to remember, she was the youngest, so she didn't really have any more siblings after her to boss around. So she was kind of like girl interrupted right there. So, and then also because she was so powerful and she had so much money that, when you're in that kind of a bubble, you think that you can pay someone or buy people just to be able to do whatever you want. And, when she was abusing these younger girls, because there are so many things that didn't pop up in this trial that people can only have a little sneak peek of her life and what she was doing with these girls. Sneak peek, because you're bringing in light witnesses, 2 of which weren't even minors at the time when they met him and Maxwell. So nobody really knows who she was. There was probably never an opportunity for her to, have to get married and have kids. And I think that she really loved Epstein and that she would do anything for him. But at the same time, she was also being selfish. She also had selfish intentions from him, because he was a man. Number one, he was a man. He was a Jewish man. Just like her father, he kind of, if you think about it, when you put them together, the personalities kind of match. Like he was very smart, like Jeffrey Epstein was smart but didn't have any money. He was just like a teacher, and he never graduated any kind of degree, but he became a teacher because he just talked his way into the position. So but that's gonna come later, because we're gonna also cover his life, and 2 of those explosive lives together just means trouble. We're still talking about Ghislaine. So Ghislaine, without having any kids, and probably didn't want kids, so instead she would use those girls because they're very vulnerable. Number one, they're young, they don't understand life, and neither does she, because if you think about it, she was just in this bubble with her father and she didn't know anything else. She never had any influence with anyone else. Why would she? Why? Her father was like very inspiring, she said in her own words. And why would she try to look for inspirations or another person? So it was interrupted when he killed himself, or he was killed. because she believed that he was killed. So now the virus needs a new host. So, it was interrupted. He didn't live a long enough for her to just like latch onto him till the end of time. There's none of that. So because she did not learn independence on her own, she was very dependent on her father. She never had a job anywhere else except with him. So now she has a new host to attach to. So she attached to Epstein. And sometimes when you're that type of personality where you have to attach yourself to someone because you're so codependent, you can't stand on your own 2 feet. After Robert died, she changed. Like her friend said that she changed. Like she wasn't the same Ghislaine anymore. She wanted to find the person that was responsible for her dad's death because she believed that her dad would never kill himself. So now she's being distracted by this new man, and being where this new man was, he was probably on his way up the ladder. But along the way, he met Ghislaine, and obviously, Ghislaine knows the inner works of being a tycoon, a mogul. So he's not attracted to older women because when they turn 18, it's like he's like, no, I want younger. So she probably excused that part of him and loved him anyway, because there are so many factors in her life story that she would benefit to stay with him. Epstein was one way and she was also another, but they always came back together. And she would, because of what she's being charged now is that she was grooming these girls, and she knew how to do it because she was probably groomed that same way. So to them, people, especially minor children whose life or some of their lives are not perfect, they don't have a perfect home life, they preyed on those types of girls and they lured them with money. Both of them were probably looking at it like a business. Okay, these are our commodities, these are our products that we're going to present to the people who want it, and then we can have something on them so that if we can blackmail them if we wanted to gain more money. It's the greed. Almost robotic is what they're thinking of these people. They don't think of people as human beings. They're so devoid of that feeling because of probably their trauma from childhood, because Epstein was also traumatized when he was younger. It's very sad to think that people are actually in a family that would do those things and that would treat their kids, be so selfish and so self-absorbed that, you treat your kids so badly and not even thinking about what are they going to be like when they grow up? Like, how are they going to be with other people when they grow up? We as people, the lower ones or the ones that don't have all kinds of money, and if you do have all kinds of money, don't get offended, you might be a good person. Not all those people are like that, but people who are like down here, we do good things. We're part of the human race, so there's humanity. You feel for people when they're victims of hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, whatever. You help out, and because we're the way we are in our life, in this level, it's impossible for us to even think that it's normal for these people to do what they do. It's just disturbing. It's disturbing that we share this earth with people who are like that. And that's why I can't stress enough to be as close to God as possible, because who could fight something with so much money like Robert Maxwell or Ghislaine Maxwell? Right now, we're seeing it before our very eyes that the people who who have been victimized had no voice. Their voice is not louder than the money, the voice of the money that these people have. They can hire good lawyers. They can, they can bribe people. They have the money to say, yeah, I got something on you that you can't expose me, or you got to get me out of here. I think right now she's demanding for the United Nations to get her out of jail. Whoa, United Nations? What? Like, what's the connection there? I got to figure that out. It's like empathizing and putting yourselves in that situation and being the person that maybe Robert Maxwell or Ghislaine Maxwell is, that you treat people like they're throwaway material, like a disposed bottle of water, and to realize that we share this planet with people like that is just mind-blowing for me. We need to open our eyes that these people don't have our best interests, in their minds. It's their interest, their own greed, their own money, and how they can progress more in this world, because they don't have a God. The money is their God. That's their idol. And the more money they have, the more greed, the more money, the more power, the more they seek power. And this is what's happening in this world right now. It's like one on top of the other, on top of the more power you have, the more you want. And it's just really sad. It's sad for these people, because the Bible says, do not worship any other gods before me. Think about that. No other gods before God. So money is a god, and those are the things that those greedy people are worshiping, and see where they end up, because God always finds a way to make you learn your lesson in this lifetime. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. Just look at what's going on with Ghislaine right now. She had all the money, but is her money helping her out right now? No. This is why I want to dig into her past and to dig into her life, because I never knew. I just know, somebody did something wrong. Somebody is in jail for something now, but to be able to have like a birds, like a fly on the wall, we start to understand these people. We can't hate them, guys. We cannot, even though we know that they did such nefarious things. We can't hate them. We have to pray for these people, because if you pray for every single evil person out there, and those evil people start to turn back to God, the more people are going to be on God's side, and then the lesson that they learned from being evil and going back to good is a testimony for everyone else. So that's how you spread God's word and God's mercy. If God is merciful, who are we not to forgive? Okay, I wasn't directly involved in the Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein saga, but just knowing that these people are so lost and so screwed, we have to be merciful as well, because God is merciful, and in God's eyes all sins are the same. Everything, lies, stealing, greed, all these things, they're all the same in God's eyes. In our eyes, no. It's like if you murder someone, I lied, you're worse, I'm not. But in God's eyes, all sins are the same, which means that if he can forgive us for our little sins, he can forgive anyone else for the big sins. Not that you're getting carte blanche to sin against God, if you want to. No, that's not what this is all about. There is a time where God will get tired of forgiving you, because if you keep doing the same sin over and over again, God's gonna give up on you, because it makes sense. Like, you keep getting forgiven, but you keep doing the the bad deed, so why should he forgive you again? Like there comes a time when he's gonna say, nope, no more, I'm done. He has a limit as well. So that's part 1 of this, and part 2 I'm gonna do in the next video.